Hello everybody, I'm Alyssa from Meditative Astrology, and I'm here to talk with you about the astrology of March 9th through 15th. We have a couple exact conjunctions this week, as well as our first lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo to talk about, so we have some important astrology to talk about. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so that way you don't miss any of our videos, as well as the weekly astrological meditations on Sunday nights. So we start out this week following the moon for the first couple days. We start out on Sunday with the moon in the sign of Cancer, and it moves into the sign of Leo in the evening around 6 p.m. Eastern time. That moves us right into Monday, March 10th, where we don't have any exact aspects going on this day either. So still just following the moon through the sign of Leo on Monday. That Leo moon brings us right into Tuesday, March 11th, where we have our first aspect of the week. Here on Tuesday, we have Mercury conjoining Venus, which has recently turned retrograde last week, in the sign of Aries. So we have that happening on Tuesday. This is the first conjunction that Venus is going to make through her retrograde path. She's going to come into contact with several planets, but Mercury is the first one that she's coming into contact. So this feels like this is where the process of the shifting, of the revision, and the change that is initiated under the Venus retrograde really starts to come together with a bit of a process. When Venus, who's moving retrograde, comes into contact with Mercury, the planet of our mind, thoughts, communications, perceptions, all of those ways that we communicate with others as well as communicating with ourselves, then we start to have changing ideas coming up. When it's Venus and Mercury coming together, those changing ideas can be related to love and desire, beauty, harmony, all of those things that bring us joy. It can be related to our relationships with ourselves and with others, the way we care for others, the way others care for us. And this is where we start to have a mental reflection related to the shift. Venus is in this process of reconsidering, redeveloping, and relooking at her desires. In the sign of Aries, those desires are strong, they're intense, and they can be bold. And in the sign of Aries, it can be very much about how we are caring for ourselves and the ways that we stay true to our own desires and what brings us balance and harmony within relationships and other avenues. So there's a process improvement that starts here with Venus and Mercury coming into a conjunction. Venus in Aries is passionate, driven, and quick to move, quick to act. And Mercury is a planet that likes to plan, likes to organize. In the sign of Aries, likes to initiate the planning and the organizing and move quickly with the shifting. So here we start to look at where the changes and the process improvement comes in for shifting the systems that find us balanced, that find cohesion. We start to come up with a plan. We start to see the tools and the resources that are going to help us with the process. And I really wonder if this is where the entirety of the Venus retrograde and kind of the start of seeing the process and the path which it's going to take us down. I wonder if this is where, if you don't already have an idea of where it's playing out, that maybe this is where you start to see the path and see the shift in the change that is happening as Venus is making its retrograde period here. So that Leo moon takes us right into Wednesday. The moon will move into the sign of Virgo really, really early in the morning, around 3 a.m. Eastern time. So really on Wednesday, we have the moon in sign of the Virgo most of the day. We have an exact aspect going on Wednesday as well. We have the sun conjoining Saturn in the sign of Pisces. When you have the sun coming into contact with any planet, there is a possibility for an amplification of the significations and what that planet naturally brings out with the placement that it is in. So you could have an amplification of the Saturnian structures within your own life as the sun moves into a conjunction with Saturn this week. You can start to see highlights and themes of the formal, rigid and structural frameworks that are within your lives, the boundaries that and systems and routines that are within your lives, and really the overall structures and framework. With Saturn, there can be themes of maturation. So when the sun comes into contact with Saturn, you could have an illumination of being able to see a process through a little bit of a different lens, whether that comes from our own experiences or understandings that we have accumulated through different events and whatnot. But there's a possibility of maybe an understanding or a little different experience or some sort of solid growth that comes through of the middle of this week as Sun comes into contact with Saturn. So on one hand, Saturn can make us feel that we are limited within boundaries and we are kind of held to a box that's a little bit difficult to get out of. But on the other end of Saturn, there is this ability to move forward in a little bit more of a mature manner. That being mature just means that there are experiences that we've been through, we've learned things, and we have a more accumulated perspective by all of the different things that have been surrounding. Another thing that comes up with Saturn is an illumination of time. Saturn represents time and the structures of time, when we either feel like we have ample enough time to fit in what we need to, or if we feel like we're kind of constricted by time and maybe don't have quite enough. So there is a possibility of feeling like you don't have quite enough time to get done what you need to do. Maybe you feel like you're constrained by responsibilities or things that you are obligated to do, or things within the routine that have to be done, things like that. On the other hand, it could be that we start to see a pathway to structurize our day and our time and our hours within the day in order to be able to fit in time for everything. So you see where you can get two ends of the spectrum there with that. There is also this theme of renewal, specifically solar renewal within this aspect coming through here this week. So anytime that a planet comes into contact with the sun, there is a rebirth process that is happening. When a planet comes into contact with the sun, there is a resetting moment, and for the inner planets, it's a cycle change. For the outer planets, a little bit different within their cycle, but there's still this rebirth and this reconnection anytime a planet comes through a conjunction with the sun. So there is this possibility in this, I'm wondering about feeling like there is a rebirth of some kind within the structures and the frameworks and those inner workings that frame and structurize our lives. And then on the other hand, Saturn is a planet that represents not only time, but also kind of what comes after our time. So it represents death and a renewal process within its own right, just by being through the significations of the planet of Saturn. So there's this renewal that feels like it goes both ways this week. It feels like there's one way in which the sun is allowing Saturn to reset itself and kind of have a fresh breath of air. But there's another way in which Saturn feels like it is enacting a bit of a death and rebirth on the sun as well. So when Sun and Saturn come together, not only can you have the sun interacting and kind of impressing upon Saturn and illuminating the Saturnian qualities, but you can also have Saturn impressing itself upon solar qualities and aspects of our lives. So solar qualities can be people and leader figures, it can be masculine energy, it can be our own purpose, path, drive, and that own deep soul energy. So there's a shifting in the middle of this week where I wonder where it feels like there's ability to start anew within a process in a framework that has already kind of been there, and being able to have a fresh breath within that somehow here coming in through the middle of the week. So that Virgo moon is going to bring us right into Thursday, March 13th. No exact aspects going on this day, but a couple lunar aspects that are going on. That Virgo moon is going to square Jupiter and is going to oppose Saturn. And then that Virgo moon is going to take us right into Friday morning, where we have our lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo coming through. Lunar eclipses are full moons that are close to the lunar nodes, the north and the south node. So when you think of a lunar eclipse, always think about the fact that it is a full moon as well. This lunar eclipse coming through is the first of the Virgo eclipses that we are going to be having coming through here. That first lunar eclipse means that we are reaching into a new energy. However, we mentioned that the lunar eclipses always happen on full moons. So full moons are a culmination of energy within their own right. So we're reaching into new energy, but it feels like this energy already has had its seeding moment within the new moon earlier in the month in the sign of Pisces. So there's history. So instead of being a full new beginning and a fresh start, blank slate from level 1, it feels like we're stepping into a new energy, but it's an energy that has already been initiated, it's already been started, and there's already been some events that have happened around that. So maybe instead of it being a brand new start, maybe it's more of a powerful shift coming through here with the lunar eclipse. The eclipse is across the Virgo-Pisces axis, so you get themes of both Pisces and Virgo. We've had lots of Piscean energy of that emotional, imaginative realm that connects lots of different energies together. It's very contemplative, it's very reflective. Now we're having some Virgo energy come through here as the eclipse comes through. So with across this axis, you are looking at the rational mind coming against the emotional mind. In Pisces and Virgo, not only is it the small little details and the wide, broad perspective of bringing everything in, but there's also this level within Pisces, especially being Jupiter ruled and being a water sign, where there is very strong hope and belief in the sign of Pisces. In the sign of Virgo, there is sensical thought and logical actions, logical thought coming through. So you have these two different perspectives of big, broad things, small little details coming through. It is a south node lunar eclipse, so it's a full moon on the south node. The south node has a level of releasing, letting go, moving, or shifting. So since we've said that this has already had its seeding moment and there's already been a little bit of history and action behind this lunar eclipse in this cycle, I'm wondering if we are shifting away from something that hasn't quite worked or hasn't quite found cohesion, and now we are able to move forward with that, and we are able to shift our perspective. We're able to shift our earthly perspective through the sign of Virgo in a tangible way, differences that you can see, and then we're able to shift our perspective within an emotional perspective shift through the sign of Pisces, where we're looking at the way that we relate, the way that we feel, and the way that we connect with others and other energies within our own right. This lunar eclipse is in a sextile aspect to Uranus. If you remember back from our new moon, Mercury was sextile Uranus in the same place where this lunar eclipse is happening at the new moon. So this whole lunar cycle is built into some Uranian qualities. So you have a shift, you have a change, you have an ability to see a different perspective and being able to do something a little bit different, able to break through any sort of limitations to bring that shift. So we've mentioned that if we see a way that things haven't quite worked or we need to shift away from something and move towards a different perspective, Uranus allows us to be able to do that. And that's a process that has built into the lunar cycle here, and not only just this eclipse. This changeability and this fluctuation is built into not only the lunar cycle, but also this entire eclipse cycle, as we are having eclipses across the Virgo and Pisces axis. Virgo and Pisces are both mutable signs, so they are signs that are initiating a change and ushering in a shift on their own right. So there's different ways in which there are shifting energies coming through with this eclipse. The sun will be sitting in a conjunction with Saturn at the time of the eclipse, which means that the moon will be in an opposition to Saturn. So we have Saturnian qualities that are coming into this lunar eclipse as well. So there could be a maturation coming through here as well. If there has been a history, then I'm wondering if this is where we start to see the maturation of the process coming through. We're able to shift, we're able to see things different through the Uranian aspect that's coming through, but Saturn allows us to process the different experiences and see things in a different way and move forward with things in a little bit of a different way. Seeing kind of what has worked and what hasn't worked. When you're having this evaluation and you're looking at what has served well and maybe what you need to move away from, there can be a weightiness and a heaviness that comes within that. But sometimes that weightiness and that heaviness is what prompts us to shift because we realize that it's not fulfilling and it's not working out the way that it's supposed to. There is a potential for this to feel like a lot as the lunar eclipse comes through. But there is also big potential to shift and potential to change. This is the first of these Virgo eclipses, and there's going to be a few more. So it's a process that's starting. Even though there's already energy that has come through, there is a shift and a change, and that is what is initiating within this first lunar eclipse here, is the shift and the change from the energy that we have already found ourselves in. So maybe if things have been kind of hard and it feels like we've been stuck in a way, maybe this is where the shift starts to bring a productive balance. Maybe here we can start to find a focus, we can start to think innovatively, we can think outside of the box, we can understand through some sort of process of maturation and experience, and we are able to try something different or see a little bit of a different perspective to make a shift that these eclipses are ushering in. So that is our eclipse that we have coming through this week. That eclipse comes through very early in the morning at 23 degrees of Virgo at just before 2 a.m. Eastern time, and then the moon will move into the sign of Libra, where it will be for the rest of the day. That Libra moon will take us right into Saturday, March 15th, and we don't have any exact aspects going on this day either. We have a couple lunar aspects as the moon will make an opposition to Venus and to Mercury, but other than that, that is all we have for Saturday. So we have a couple really important conjunctions coming through this week, as well as the first Virgo lunar eclipse. So there is some strong energy coming through that I am wondering if it's going to line up and kind of put into perspective what the rest of March is going to look like. So as there may be some somewhat heavy and somewhat limiting possibly energy coming through this week, wondering if those showing the limitations and showing us kind of where we've been stuck, if that's going to give us a space to be able to prompt ourselves to move forward somehow within this week. So very, very cool and interesting energy that we have coming through this week. And I hope that it all serves you in the highest possible way that it can. As you are working through this week's energy and as you are contemplating on it, remember to join us for the live meditation Sunday night. That will also help you prep for the week and just come into a good contemplative space. So 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. We will see you there, and then we'll see you back for next week's video.